Well, here I am again, about almost 8 o'clock in Detroit, Michigan, 25 miles from Iana Newman, my daughter of 13 years old, that's being psychologically molested in a psychiatrist hospital, and I just need help. It's like the end of what doctors are doing, which I guess I heard yesterday, which is a great thing. But first, I want to begin with prayer. I, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation. Deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Well, here we are, black people now, 600 years into the American dream. Our first black president, our worst year. And what makes it our worst year is after it's been over and done, and just black people have been just tortured and brutalized for close and up front for the last 8 to 10 years. But it seemed like it's something that started 40 years ago during the Martin Luther King era, during the Vietnam era. It was said way back when I was drafted into the military that King tried his best to mainstream black America, or they had an option. The American government, and it was publicly known. We could either engage in the Vietnam conflict or mainstream black America. Now you would think that a choice like that wouldn't come up like that, but this is the way it was presented to the American people. And our thing with King, it just hasn't proven to be that he was a martyr for black people. He didn't. It's like we have a history of America. Just like we were taught American history. Where does it stop? When does it become history? I've seen people writing history, in history books, and that's not even what they did. It's just a flat out lie, really. That's just like, well, that's just it. But anyway, but what they're doing to my daughter is like, and I guess they do things that's unbelievable to the naked eye, so to speak, and that has gone too far. Here it is. I wouldn't put myself out like this. I've been fighting for black people all of my life because I understand that black people, I'm black. But see, most black, we just haven't, and I'm just trying to talk, I guess you could say, to really intelligent blacks or white people. We don't have leaders. Then your first real leader could be Donald Trump. That could be your first real leader then. We don't know. But I know that we don't have black leaders. Our black leaders, why can't we do our black leaders like you do your black leaders, especially the ones that have churches. They come up talking about they're a sister or something, and they run a church. The government don't just and they're not talking about Jesus Christ. I can see you want to advance. If you want to advance something, if you want another vehicle, go get you another vehicle. Why you trying to use my vehicle? Get your own car, get your own bag. Black people use the teaching of Jesus Christ, even on the Mayflower. For us talking about, it's just like, I don't know how they turned into, but it has a transformation to it. And now you are taking, slavery and making it a homosexual issue. And then what makes it so bad, what makes it so good about that is we have seen the results. It ain't like nobody prejudging. Then it's being put out like we are prejudging our own leaders. No, we just telling me what they have done for the last 40 to 50 years. We talking what they are doing to this day. Right now, I'm sitting there looking at News One now. They talking about they trying to make Hillary Clinton. Instead of them talking about how dirty and low down Hillary Clinton is, they talking about something else. And then she are proven to be dirty. She don't even respect white people. Now, when you find a white woman talking about talking about what difference does it make now about the Benghazi deal, and then you sit around talking about Black Lives Matter, Hillary Clinton look at you, what the hell is you talking about? Hell, I just saw it, and everybody know that. She came out in broad daylight and said, well, it was because of a video. And then they said, well, hold on, they're making that political. So how you going to politicize a person's death? I guess it's just, life is just as life. But anyway, we got the new administration coming in, and at least we have hope. But we need to talk. We need to, people who are wrong need to acknowledge, that hey, we need this. We don't need that. Yeah, I guess all of them hooking into they hustlers, and this is what they doing for the money, and they. I used to think the people in Hollywood were hustlers. They just homosexuals. There's a difference between a hustler and a homosexual. A homosexual is a person who's just looking for, like they say, looking for a guy and just using everything else. And I'm talking about men. Women they ain't got into the category yet. Let white folks choose a claim what they need to claim. You ain't got to claim everything. You ain't got to get a dog because a white person get a dog. You ain't got to get a rabbit because a white person get a rabbit. You ain't, and then if you did everything like that, then that would be different. But, white people don't go around and try to get up on the sister to lead them. White people don't, but we sat around, I see people from my generation in their 60s and 70s, sitting around listening to a homosexual now about what they need to be doing with their life. And then how will young people even know anything? If you send your old crusty behind around, the NAACP, we tried to get some help from them in Selma, Alabama. They didn't know, they couldn't even handle a conversation about, hey, why is it that we got black police officers, homosexual, that's out just doing stuff to people if they are not homosexual? Really. This is and then we sending our children to die around the world. That's what the draft would do, but now people are volunteering for it. But then how can, why is it that people are dying on the other side of the planet for things that we are supposed to be dying for to keep them from being treated like Iana is being treated? How does that make sense? How? And then we got all the money that we'll say we owe. These doctors, they, right now, you go in any house in America. If you know what you'll do in a black neighborhood? You go through any black person's house in America, you're going to find pills that was never opened. Now, that might look like a penny, and people go around picking up pennies. It's a lot of whole pill balls that if I had a penny for every one I could pick up, I'd make that my job. Just going around collecting them balls, trying to recycle them, whatever kind of money is on. I see, and then some of them never been opened. That means that, what's going on in the doctor's office? I'm just asking you to please help me. Go to my GoFundMe account. I don't even know is it set up right. I never received any money through the GoFundMe.com. And I want people to really understand that if you have sent me some money, try to contact me and let me know. If you have. And then don't get me going on a trip if you if you haven't, you just joke. My daughter, is really in bad trouble. Now, I won't say God gonna see her through it. It just feels I don't know nothing else to do. You know, but this stuff with doctors, if you gonna make a great America cannot be great with people just being so wasteful. And then I can see you being wasteful if you were paid, and we act like we paving the streets with gold. We not even keeping up with the pothole. Pothole will knock your socks loose right now. But we actually walk around be in some type of world like it's gold that's being paved out there. That's just not common sense. So it's something that you are not lining yourself up with God. They say, on earth as it is in heaven. These are what you think, God don't answer prayer? There's nothing to it. Well, that's what, if a person is determined to die like that, then I guess there's nothing else you could really say. But I just want a chance. I'm just talking to you, basically. I've been talking all my life, about just things you experience or whatever. But now, I'm just trying to contribute and not trying to contribute, see, because God is always, if you take one step, God always take two. There's certain things that we are overlooking. If God is with you, who can be against you? That don't mean that you don't have to go through something. But that means it's started asking that question, who's against the righteous? It's being pointed out every day. That's the question you're asking. Okay, now you see who against you. What are these people? These people that are against you, are they American? What is the qualification to be an American? Why is it that you have to give respect and not get respect, and you following the laws of the country, and you following the laws of the doctrine of the country, you following the laws that the country was built on? And that's the point. And so, but anyway, we have not a lot of things to do. We have a lot of things to stop doing. It's not that, see, like everybody's life is great. It's just that we allow people to just mess up their lives, mess up your life. A good friend, if they see you finna step in a hole, they'll say, "Hey, brother, don't step in that hole. That hole is deeper than you think." But you find a person like we got people that's waiting out digging holes. But this thing about white and black homosexuals, this is it's just non-productive when it comes to even musicians. I see a lot of musicians. They're supposed to be homosexual or whatever. But why didn't they just build a hospital for black homosexuals, musicians? They probably would have a better understanding about what life is all about. And then, they need to be separated from, black people with money. Just like they saying they don't want to associate with poor people. Then they really need to we really need to enforce that, because they don't know nothing about poor black people. They go out, rich black people go out and get white folks to finish killing you off, really. And they send around like what they saying, what they doing, and what they doing is something it's something that they possess some type of talent. And where it's reading out is they possess the talent of a net, really. And then now they don't mind showing you that they're a nut, because they're coming out talking about, trying to campaign for Hillary Clinton, and she's the one who came up with the crime bill. The crime bill, what's that? Oh, that's all she did. It's like, I guess they hooked that into what they've been wealthy all their life, and they don't care nothing about nothing but I guess just they're narcissists or whatever you call it. They think that's caring about themselves because they able to intermingle with white homosexuals, and so they look at that like that got something to do with the top of civilization. They're trying to put it on top of everything. And in the meantime, the biggest problem I had was, why can't we separate that from the streets? And these judges, see, it's a thing about homosexual black and white judges. That's the main corruption in the criminal justice system. It's black and white homosexual judges, and no, it's like America is too modern to pretend that the things that go on in some of the great buildings that people have died just constructing. People actually pass just on all kind of jobs, but it's just so disgraceful for some of the buildings being built architecturally so sound that people walk up in there and just disrespect the laws that civilize people enough to build these buildings. Or to get these structures built, and they really add to civilization. And now they get a person that come through and just soil it, especially when you're talking about in the criminal justice halls. All kind of law, the greatest nation on earth being subject to, it has always survived. It's just like American government, I guess, is what, about 1490. Well, how many hundreds of years? See, people think the American government has been here forever, but they don't realize that black people could not vote in 1968. Right now, there's nobody for black people to vote for. Right? But, what I mean by that is, you can't just go out and vote for a black person thinking that it's going to help you. The only help that we got now is we can unite through Christianity and get white brothers and through Jesus Christ. That's what makes that possible, and that's what we are at, because we're not going on the black leadership. I know a lot of people say, well, what you been doing all your life? Yeah, you see all these black men. No, it's hard to see, especially when it comes. I used to think blood was thicker than water. If you got a cousin or uncle that's homosexual, or a brother that's homosexual, and you thinking that he gonna help you as much as you help him, you lying to yourself. Until you may live your whole life thinking that. Well, I've lived that. I've had a brother homosexuals, and if you trying to live your life as a Christian, then they're gonna be, every time they're gonna be hollering and singing and doing anything they can to except try to get in some type of reparative therapy. That's the name of that tune. And then at the same time, you already got a lot of stuff in your life, or you in a world where you got to make it right. You need to, you can't just be idle. They say it's the devil's workshop, and you really dealing with an entity that is very. If you don't deal with it, if you don't repair it, then look where we have come. Right now, we got black guys have to make a decision on to receive a false charge, or go with some type of a judge, a white homosexual lawyer, a black homosexual lawyer, or go to jail. And then in jail, the only thing you got to look forward to is what? It's just a terrible situation for young blacks to be in without any help. And then we have accepted that as something like the norm. Hey, okay, don't when you go there, don't drop the soap, stuff like that. It's still, and that's still what you call a very important part of how does that come about? That come about because we as black people have allowed homosexuals to take over our church. To take over our church. And then the ones that are in church, they're sitting there looking like they don't even know what's going on. They got them to move the scriptures, change the words, and then but one good thing about it, that's been tested. Don't let nobody fool you that this is just something new and people just trying. That's been going on for over 40 to 50 years that we can recognize and we can see. And the reason why it's done that is because I just really discovered that I understand why black people while God holds the righteous people that know God responsible in so many ways for because they have sense enough to see. But why don't they have sense enough to talk? That's where we are. Who would know something like this and just accept it as a part of culture? That means you putting your culture down, you putting the advancement of civilization down, and you causing a mess is what you're doing. When a person get to be 50 years old, they should at least know their first name or second name or whatever. They just shouldn't be so. We got people in positions of authority that just, they just need to go. That's why Donald Trump was elected. I mean, they have proven that they just need to go. They don't stand for nothing. They don't set for nothing. And like right now, the first black president, and he actually running around like and black people, you got some black people that's out trying to back him up on what have he done? In 8 years, he's trying to do something in 8 days. 8 days, and he had 8 years. And people went out and went and re-elected him a second time. But see, that's the problem, right there. Well, if a person ain't doing nothing, and you pay him attention, he be actually think he's doing something. And then you ain't got no business voting for, we had no business voting him into the second term, but I said, hey, even though I didn't vote for him, but I still wish that, why here he go, he can't do but one term. But he did, they gave him a second term after he came out with this, after he had came in saying one thing, and he put it all on the line the second time by saying, okay, I'm with the homosexual group. I think 2 men are supposed to be married. See, and they confuse that with women. Women is different from men, 2 men being married ain't, that should be in a whole different category from 2 women. Because it's a whole different ballgame. A woman is if a man become a homosexual, that means that woman got to either change races. She got to change races. She got to have sex with something other than something that resembles a man, or something that resembles a black man. I have to use the black scenario, I guess, the black thing, saying that, okay, so it's really not the same thing, because the man is who started it. Who starts something is always a little bit more and responsible than a person who follows suit out of what? What else is there to do? You a fag. You a fag. What can I do? You looking for the same thing I'm looking for. What can I do? That's the position that a woman have to take. She can't take another position. Okay, so that's where you start. You start at the root. You're gonna deal with something. You got to deal with the root cause of it. And we got black men ministers, supposed to be ministers of Jesus Christ. I don't really know exactly, but they're saying, well, we talk about stuff, but we don't talk about stuff. You got to catch on. Is that the way of life that God give us languages to speak with each other and we can't talk? We learn things through experience, how to talk. We learn how to talk from hearing other people talk. But they're saying some things you just don't talk about. And, what is, that's what I'm saying. Some things we accept as a part of our culture when it just hasn't done us any good. For years and years and years, they say, well, we don't know nothing about it. How can we do something about it? Well, we've been talking about the problem we had being charged in a court of law for not being a homosexual. That's it's a crime. But, don't everybody, well, that's what has happened with us, And now, 8 years later, with a new administration, it seems like what they are doing, they have targeted my daughter, got her in a hospital here in Auburn Hills, Michigan. And then, but it couldn't be what you call an extra tire because my daughter did drink some peroxide. And but it came. But if you were walking with us, if you were paying attention to our situation, we've had so many problems from homosexuals. Homosexual. I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran of. I served 2 terms during the Vietnam conflict, and at the time I was drafted into the military. That's how it started for me. I had a good job at Jane Parker Baker's right here in Detroit. Jane Parker Baker's. I had a job there making about $400 a week back in the '70s. And I was doing great. But at the same time, I didn't want to go to college, but I should have. I could have got out of the draft by going to college. They say by getting a teacher's deferment. I heard from my homosexual brother was saying, well, you get a teacher's deferment if you was to go to college. And I don't know what was wrong with me, but just stupid, I guess. But anyway, I didn't. They say, but then I also could have got out of the draft if I had said that I was a homosexual. They say, well, if you tell me you're a homosexual, you ain't got to go. I said, well, I was about to, what kind of question is that? That's a big step. And so anyway, it's just anyway, 50 years later, now I went to the military, and then I re-enlisted in the military. I guess, I re-enlisted in the military. And so I got out of the military, and just here I am now. So I actually was receiving a check from the military, but now that they won't give me, they'll say I'm a service-connected disability. I didn't want the service-connected disability because I was disagreeing with the military at the time because I didn't, they were supposed to be fighting communism. To me, I looked at it, after being in, I did look at it as being different. But some things some things you do is just gonna manifest on you. I still was, I wasn't on what you call a traitor to the country itself, but I didn't agree, I just began to disagree with people in the country. But I felt pretty good about what life had to offer me. But I'm finding out that our leaders, we don't have black leaders that actually that are truthful to their own community, to their own children. Our black leaders' children don't do nothing. They children do worse than they do. The leaders. You found a person that is a city council person. He could be a minister. He could be a lawyer. He could be a doctor. They children still just don't be nothing. They just do. It started back in back in my generation. My generation, I come from born in 1950. My generation stopped superseding in an intelligence sense their parents because the world was so changed. The world has changed. Industrial revolution, social revolution. Everything you can name is on the I guess you could say agenda come into everywhere. You have one phone. It was one phone in the whole city. When I was coming up, people used to come to our house, drive miles just to use the phone. I didn't know a place called Lowndes County. But it's just, now everybody got a phone. Everybody got a voice in a sense of speaking. It's just now we live in a world where can your voice be heard? And you talking to everybody. See, that's the whole thing. You understand why your voice is not being heard when you ain't talking to nobody but yourself. Out in the boondocks, out in the woods, listening to the squirrels or the raccoons or whatever. But now you're talking to a world, and we can't get it together. We don't know right. We can't do right. We don't know what's right, what's right and what's wrong. I just wish I had help. I do this all the time. I could talk forever about the problems of the world, and the problems like I say, but I just don't. What we can give our youth, we need to try to give them an understanding of the teachings of Jesus Christ. And other than that, it's just even if they survive, that's all they'll be doing is surviving. We don't really know where it's going, but it's not going to be any progress. Progress is when your children grow up and be something because the civilization itself is just got it going on. We're still on individual merit. But we are just talking now, trying to get through this new administration coming into fruition, which God, that's what we've been hoping for, just something similar, something close. And that's close, that's to me, that's a win. That's a win. I'm listening to black people now, like during that election. Beyonce, now she was very rich, talented when it come down to music. She out campaigning now for Hillary Clinton. She was out. I mean, that's another thing. Wow, we got a person that could be a good president, and we got black people supporting Hillary Clinton, and then they still they still support. And then after it's over with, that just show you that the problem you think was a very simple, shallow problem. No, that's the reason why we was feeling the way we were feeling, and because the problem is more than just what meets the eye. It's crazy. It's just unbelievable that that we could be that discombobulated, that we could be that, and we have all kind of leaders. I've been inspired by some of the people who were aspiring leaders over the years, but it's just when it comes down to crossing that 95, crossing into the end zone, I don't know, people just decided to turn around and start going the other way. Well, that's what we have to take away from our youth. Don't let them cross. We're gonna have to put them across the finish line. I was shocked to see people like Colin Powell support Obama. I said, damn, what's going on? Especially those civil rights workers, like the Bevel guy that used to write for the Final Call. He's the one who was in Selma, Alabama, as a rapist. For his children, for raping his daughter. I think he was down there campaigning against Felicia Owens Dixon, my wife. For an old white woman in Selma, Alabama. Ben, what is Shavers? Not Ben Shavers, but I think Ben. It's another one. I forget. Bevel, and then he had he was like, I think the FBI came in and got him, and he went to prison for something, but he was supposed to be a very strange person. But they still made a movie about trying to say that, trying to pretend that, what is that history? Do history need to read what actually happened, or do history need to read what sound good? Who do we believe the history we have learned, or do we believe it was written in the same method that we see now, that people are recording history as if they are doing one thing, but they actually doing something else. And how can you define what a person is doing? But that's where we are with the idea that we are assuming that Dr. King was a martyr or some type of archangel, and that's the reason why we benefiting so greatly now. Is you serious? Are you for real? And how could that have anything to do with anything? Is it possible? And I'm just asking the question. Is it, if a person get that wrong, if a person believes that a person is a martyr and he's not, does it go on what you believe, or does it go on? Does reality progresses in a more perfectionary manner because of what we believe, or what we believe that this person was or this person is? Does a martyr really ever dies? A true martyr? See, if a true martyr never dies, we need to act, we need to talk. Or do we need to talk? All of it is just a part of what's going on. But anyway, I think I've been on here long. I wish it was away. My sweet little child, her name is Iana Newman. She's in Havenwyck Hospital. And the only, I don't know, is her being there is what got me talking about the problems of the world. I've never been on this before, not in this particular. Well, I've had a blog talk radio program for like a long time, though. Just speaking about the journey all the way through from Selma, Alabama to where I am now. It's just terrible with the law. Do you really expect to have for people to be dying around the world for a particular cause that's going on right next door, down the street? You're fighting what, and what's the definition of okay? I know we're fighting Islam extreme terror. We're fighting what they call I've studied Islam before, jihad. I know about it. It's very it's a deep situation, but I believe anyway. But I just feel like I've been on long enough. I wish someone would help me with my daughter. If it just was a lawyer, if a lawyer could just help me and just give me a way to pay him, just give me a way to pay him. But that's why I'm trying to go on to GoFundMe.com, because I tried. It's a long story about me but I've been personally persecuted just because I'm not a homosexual, and that don't, I never tried to do anything. Like I say, it's just a long story. All of us have homosexuals in our family, so we just go along with the homosexual thing because what else can you do? You don't know. You don't really know nothing about it. The only thing you could do is try to be compassionate. But you don't believe, but blood ain't thicker than water when it comes to, if you got a brother that's a homosexual, and I'm talking about things I have lived through, I'm not speculating, and you live in a town where the district attorney is a homosexual, and the mayor is a homosexual, and you around there talking about just normal stuff, all of them against you, that's what happened. That's what happened. Who would think that they would have the legal, or they would bring it up into a courtroom of saying, okay, since you're not a homosexual, I'm going to, black court. Now, blacks all, we had a civil rights movement just based on the criminal justice system. Now you got a homosexual charging you for not being a homosexual, and you was raised not to be a homosexual. I mean, what? And now I'm in a situation that I don't like. But to me, on the good side of it, children, we shouldn't do, as a country, we should protect children. I don't mean just throw something somewhere and say, okay, this is the way but just to have this kind of operation going on, it's just not, it's not good. It's not good. And these are doctors that have been to school. These are not, we are thinking that the people walking the street, walking through the alley is the ones that's messing up society. No, you think crabs in the jar. It's people that just it's our leaders. We don't have that. That's how Trump. And I knew he was gonna win when he started talking about how stupid our politicians are, because and they think they're really smart. And that's the problem. They think they're really smart. And they don't even raise decent children. No, you go around. You just say he could be anything. He ain't got a decent child. It's just and then. And the child was raised up in a state, what they call a home, with the lights on, gas on, water on. Still nothing. Well, anyway, I sure wish someone would help me just raise enough money to hire a lawyer for my daughter. Anyway, all thing I can do is say, may God bless us all. Thank you.